Most people don't fail at trading because they are dumb. They fail because they are human. And the market is designed to punish human behavior. That alone explains almost everything. If trading was about intelligence, the smartest people would dominate it. If trading was about effort, the hardest workers would win. But that is not what we see. We see engineers blow accounts. We see lawyers rage quit. We see disciplined people lose patience. And then we see a small group of traders who look almost bored, doing the same thing over and over, barely reacting, quietly pulling money out of the market like it is obvious. That contrast is not accidental. The reason 95% of people find trading impossible, while 5% find it obvious, has nothing to do with talent. It has everything to do with how the human brain is wired versus how markets actually move. And once you see that gap clearly, trading stops feeling mysterious. It stops feeling unfair. It stops feeling personal. It becomes mechanical. And mechanical is where money lives. Before we go any further, do me a quick favor. If you've ever felt like trading should not be this confusing, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Not for the algorithm. For yourself. It tells your brain this matters and it helps this video reach people who are stuck in the same loop. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Most traders are not trying to make money. They are trying to feel smart. They are trying to feel in control. They are trying to feel justified. They are trying to feel busy. The market does not reward any of that. The market rewards correct repetition and emotional neutrality. That already eliminates most people. The 95% approach trading like a puzzle that needs to be solved. They think if they just learn a little more, add one more indicator, watch one more video, find one more confirmation, then suddenly everything will click. So they keep stacking information. More time frames, more opinions, more strategies, more adjustments, more trades, more noise. They mistake complexity for progress. They feel productive, but their account stays the same or worse. The 5% did something that feels wrong at first. They made trading smaller, they reduced decisions, they removed options, they limited freedom, they stopped searching, they stopped tweaking, they stopped reacting to every candle, they stopped caring about being right. They chose a narrow path and walked it until it became boring. And boredom is a signal you are doing it correctly. Here's a line you need to hear clearly. If your strategy needs your opinion, it is not a strategy. It is a personality test. And most people fail it daily. The market does not care what you think. It does not care what makes sense. It does not care what you expected. It does not care what should happen. It only responds to orders being placed and removed. When you realize that, prediction loses its appeal. Reaction becomes everything. The 95% ask what they think the market will do. The 5% ask what they will do if something happens. That single shift separates frustration from consistency. Prediction feels smart. Reaction makes money. Most traders spend their entire journey trying to eliminate uncertainty. They want confirmation. They want alignment. They want clarity. They want certainty. The market offers none of that. The 5% stop demanding certainty and instead define responses. If this happens, I do this. If that happens, I do nothing. If price does not reach my level, I walk away. No debate, no improvisation, no emotion. This is why demo trading feels easy for most people. There is no emotional tax, no fear, no urgency, no attachment. On demo, people follow rules because nothing is at stake. On live accounts, the brain panics. It wants control, it wants reassurance, it wants action, it wants relief. That is when rules disappear. The market is not harder live, you are weaker live. And that is not an insult. That is biology. Your brain is wired to survive uncertainty, not to profit from it. When money is on the line, your nervous system interprets randomness as danger. So it looks for patterns even when none exist. It reacts faster than logic. It overrides plans. It chases relief. That is why the 95% feel like the market is out to get them. It is not. Their own reactions are. I've watched this happen hundreds of times. Someone trades demo for weeks and looks unstoppable. Perfect execution, calm decisions, clean entries. Then they go live and everything changes. Same strategy, same rules, completely different behavior. Suddenly they hesitate. Suddenly they move stops. Suddenly they take trades that weren't there before. The market didn't change. The money did. The moment it became real, their nervous system took over. That's when you realize trading is not about charts. It's about how you behave when your brain feels threatened. The 5% do not eliminate emotion. They design systems that do not require emotional input. That is the difference. They do not rely on discipline. They rely on structure. Discipline eventually fails. Structure removes temptation entirely. If this is already making sense, drop a comment that says obvious. I want to see how many people are starting to recognize themselves in this. Another hard truth. Most people secretly enjoy the struggle. They like the drama, they like the chase, they like the feeling of almost figuring it out. Trading gives them a story. They are learning, they are improving, they are close. The problem is the market does not pay for effort or narrative, it pays for execution. The 5% treat trading like brushing their teeth. Same time, same motion, same result. No excitement, no overthinking, no identity attached to the outcome. A win does not inflate them, a loss does not crush them. It is data, not validation. This is why smart people struggle. Intelligence adds layers. Intelligence asks questions. Intelligence wants to optimize. Intelligence wants to understand everything. Trading does not require understanding everything. It requires doing a few things correctly and repeatedly. When people say the market is simple but not easy, this is what they mean. The rules are simple. Following them while bored, uncertain, and emotionally detached is the hard part. Most traders do not lose money because their strategy is bad. They lose money because they interfere with it. They step in early, they move stops, they skip trades, they double risk, they hesitate, they revenge trade, they try to fix randomness with action. The 5% accept randomness. They expect losing streaks, they expect boredom, they expect nothing to happen most of the time. They do not need the market to entertain them. They need it to pay them over time. I had a friend who was an engineer, extremely smart, analytical, precise. He treated trading like a math problem that just needed one more variable solved. He had spreadsheets, backtests, multiple monitors. He knew every indicator you could name. And every week he would explain why his last loss made sense. The crazy part was he was never confused. He always had a reason, but his account kept bleeding slowly. Meanwhile, another trader I knew barely talked about the market. He traded one setup at one time of day and closed his laptop. No explanations, no theories, just repetition. Guess which one made money? Intelligence didn't save the engineer. Simplicity saved the other guy. Before we move on, if you know someone who is stuck in analysis paralysis, someone who is always learning but never consistent, share this video with them. Not to prove a point, to save them time. The hardest part about trading is not losing money. It is realizing that most of what feels productive is actually holding you back. The 95% stay trapped because their effort is pointed in the wrong direction. They are trying to add instead of subtract. They are trying to improve instead of restrict. They are trying to gain control instead of remove decisions. One of the biggest traps is the belief that more screen time equals more skill. People think if they watch the market long enough, they will start to understand it. What actually happens is the opposite. The more you watch, the more you feel compelled to act. You start seeing things that are not there. You convince yourself a move is coming. You enter trades that were never part of your plan. The market did not change. Your tolerance for stillness did. The 5% spend less time watching charts than the 95%. That sounds backwards, but it is true. They show up for specific moments. Specific times, specific conditions. And when those conditions are not present, they leave. They do not sit there hoping. They do not force trades out of boredom. They do not need constant stimulation. One trader once told me something that stuck with me. He said the day he became profitable was the day he started feeling embarrassed talking about trading. Not because he was losing, but because nothing interesting was happening. He wasn't hunting trades. He wasn't glued to charts. He wasn't excited. He was waiting, executing, logging off. And when people asked what he did differently, he almost felt disappointed by how boring the answer was. That boredom scared him at first. Then he realized boredom was the signal that he finally stopped sabotaging himself. Another trap is flexibility. Most traders think flexibility is a strength. They like having options. They like being able to adapt. They like being able to switch strategies when things are not working. That sounds smart. In reality, flexibility is what keeps them inconsistent. Every option becomes an escape hatch. Every losing streak becomes an excuse to change something. Every bad day becomes a reason to override rules. I used to think flexibility was a strength too. If one setup wasn't working, I'd switch. If one time frame felt slow, I'd drop lower. If one trade lost, I'd look for another immediately. I called it adapting. What I was really doing was resetting the clock every time things got uncomfortable. No strategy ever had time to prove itself. The moment I locked myself into one approach and removed my ability to improvise, my results stabilized. Not because the strategy changed, but because I did. The 5% are rigid where it matters. Same setup, same risk, same execution, same exit logic. They allow flexibility only in areas that do not affect performance, like position sizing within a predefined range or session selection. Everything else is locked in. They trade like machines on purpose. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Most traders are addicted to being right. They want the market to agree with them. They want validation. They want confirmation. When price goes against them, it feels personal. So they defend their idea instead of managing risk. They move stops. They hold losers. They argue with reality. The 5% do not argue with price. They assume they are wrong by default. Every trade is guilty until proven profitable. Risk is defined first. Ego is removed up front. When they enter a trade, they already know where they are wrong and how much it will cost them. That makes exits clean and unemotional. If this is hitting a little too close to home, pause for a second and subscribe. Not because you need another trading channel, but because this channel is about thinking differently, not chasing hype. And if you are serious about changing how you trade, you will want reminders of this perspective. Another reason trading feels impossible to most people is because they expect progress to feel good. In reality, real progress in trading feels boring, quiet, and slightly uncomfortable. You trade less, you think less, you react less. Your days feel empty. There is no rush, no drama, no excitement. That emptiness scares people. They think something is missing, so they fill it with activity. The 5% learn to sit with that emptiness. They understand that absence of action is part of the process. They are not trying to be entertained. They are trying to be effective. Most traders also misunderstand confidence. They think confidence comes from winning. It does not. Confidence comes from knowing exactly what you will do, regardless of outcome. When your rules are clear and limited, confidence follows. When your approach is flexible and emotional, confidence disappears the moment a trade goes against you. This is why so many traders bounce between strategies. They are chasing certainty. They think a better system will remove losses. That system does not exist. Losses are part of the game. The 5% stop trying to avoid losses and start trying to make losses irrelevant over time. Here's something most people never hear. The market does not reward intelligence. It rewards restraint. It rewards patience. It rewards people who can wait without feeling deprived. That is rare. And that is why the 5% stay small. Another psychological trap is identity. People tie trading results to their self-worth. A winning day means they are smart. A losing day means they failed. That emotional roller coaster destroys consistency. You cannot trade objectively when your ego is involved. The 5% separate who they are from what they do. A loss is not a failure. A win is not a success. Both are just outcomes of a process. That emotional distance gives them clarity. I once watched a trader hold on to a losing trade for hours, not because the setup was still valid, but because he had already told people it was going to work. He wasn't trading anymore, he was defending his identity. When the stop finally hit, he wasn't just upset about the money, he felt exposed. That's when I realized how dangerous it is to tie your self-worth to outcomes. The 5% avoid this by staying anonymous to the result. Win or lose, they look the same emotionally. If you have ever felt emotionally drained after a trading session, that is a sign you are too involved. Trading should not exhaust you. It should barely register emotionally. When it becomes neutral, it becomes sustainable. Take a second and comment if you have noticed this pattern in yourself. Awareness is the first real shift. Another major reason most traders never reach the 5% is because they confuse learning with doing. They consume endless content. They watch videos, they read books, they join groups, they collect strategies. But they never commit long enough to let one approach play out statistically. They keep restarting the clock. The 5% commit to one idea long enough to see the truth. They accept drawdowns. They accept flat periods. They accept discomfort. They understand that consistency only appears after patience. There is a moment in every trader's journey that almost no one talks about. It is not a breakthrough. It is not a big win. It is not an emotional high. It is the moment when trading feels boring and pointless, and you start questioning why you are even doing this. That is the moment most people quit, and that is why they never reach the 5%. Right before trading becomes obvious, it becomes quiet. The excitement fades. The hunt for the perfect setup ends. The desire to constantly improve disappears. What is left is repetition, waiting, execution, review, and then waiting again. For the 95%, that feels like failure. For the 5%, that feels like stability. Most traders quit because they mistake calm for stagnation. They think if they are not struggling, they are not progressing. But struggle is not a requirement for growth. In trading, struggle is often a sign you are still fighting reality. When trading finally clicks, it does not feel like you figured something out. It feels like you stopped interfering. You stop checking the chart every minute. You stop second-guessing entries. You stop reacting to every candle. You trust your process not because it wins every time, but because it behaves the same every time. That is when the market stops feeling hostile. Not because it changed, but because you did. Almost every consistently profitable trader I know says the same thing when you ask them when it clicked. They don't mention a big win. They don't mention a breakthrough strategy. They say something like this: "One day I stopped caring. Not in a reckless way, in a detached way. They stopped needing trading to feel exciting. They stopped needing proof every day. And that was the day their behavior finally matched their rules." The 5% did not unlock a secret. They removed variables. They stopped needing excitement. They stopped trying to be clever. They stopped chasing certainty. They stopped attaching their identity to outcomes. They let math and probability do their job. The 95% stay stuck because they want trading to feel rewarding immediately. They want feedback. They want validation. They want momentum. Trading does not work like that. Trading rewards delayed gratification. It rewards people who can do the same thing correctly even when nothing interesting happens for long stretches of time. This is why most people say trading is hard. It is not intellectually hard. It is emotionally inconvenient. It asks you to behave in ways that feel unnatural. It asks you to wait when you want to act. It asks you to accept losses without reacting. It asks you to follow rules when your instincts disagree. It asks you to trust statistics instead of feelings. Once you accept that, trading becomes obvious. Not easy, obvious. The 5% wake up knowing exactly what they are looking for and exactly what they will ignore. They are not scanning endlessly. They are not hunting for opportunities. They are waiting for predefined conditions. If the market does not give them those conditions, they walk away without frustration. They do not need to trade every day. They do not need to trade every session. They do not need constant action to feel productive. Their productivity is measured over months, not moments. This is also why automation works so well for certain traders. Not because machines are smarter, but because machines do not get bored, impatient, or emotional. The 5% try to behave more like systems than humans. Some automate. Others simply systemize their behavior. The principle is the same. I've seen traders quit right before this point. They say trading feels dead, flat, pointless. They assume something is wrong, so they go searching again. New strategy, new mentor, new system. They were one layer of boredom away from consistency, and they mistook it for failure. The 5% stayed. Not because they were stronger, but because they recognized the silence as progress. If you are watching this and thinking this sounds simple, but you are not doing it yet, that is normal. Understanding always comes before behavior change. The key is not to add more rules, it is to remove choices. If you want to move closer to the 5%, ask yourself this simple question: what decision am I still making in real time that should already be decided in advance? Entry timing, risk size, stop placement, trade frequency, session selection. The more of those you lock in, the quieter trading becomes. Quiet is not failure, quiet is control. Before we wrap this up, if this video helped you see trading differently, take a second to like it and share it with someone who is stuck in the same cycle you used to be in. These ideas spread best when traders talk to each other honestly. And if you want more content that breaks trading down without hype, subscribe. This channel is about making the market smaller, not louder. I will leave you with this. The 5% did not find trading obvious on day one. They found it obvious the day they stopped arguing with reality. They stopped trying to outthink the market and started letting their rules do the work. They stopped chasing certainty and accepted probability. They stopped needing excitement and embraced boredom. When you do that, trading stops feeling impossible. It becomes obvious. This is Trader's Mind TV. Thanks for watching.